hoopinhoops.com. If you've not subscribed, please do so. It will ensure that you continue to receive all this great content. So, you guys have not heard from me for a while now. I've been out of town for a bit, but clearly I'm back now. And there are two things that I ran across that I want to touch on. There was talk about the best coach in the NBA, and Scottie Pippen made some unflattering statements, or maybe one unflattering statement about Michael Jordan. I will get into the first one right now. That is the one to do with the best coach, and I will most likely get into the second one sometime tomorrow, at the latest, the day after, but most likely tomorrow. I have to revisit my schedule, and because since I've been back, there may be some things on my desk that I may have to attend to. Okay, so that said, um, but before I get into the coaching bit, the NBA Finals is here, and I cannot ignore it completely. So let me see. It's the Lakers Nuggets. They finished rather quickly. Of course, the Nuggets swept the Lakers, and if I'm not mistaken, I spoke about that already. The Celtics Heat. Well, of course, we know it went to a game seven. I predicted Boston would have won the series. They lost. Now, I know persons are giving Joe Mazzulla kudos for forcing, a game seven. I'm not one of those persons. The Celtics should not have been down 0-3 in the first place. They have the better complement of players, but I guess the results show they did not have the better team. Obviously, the team was assembled, and and they were designed for their strength to be more on the defensive end. And when Joe decides yes, he says he's making the offense more efficient, and he did. But, it's not like the Celtics have sharp shooters, to put it so, or 3-point specialists. They have capable 3-point shooters, make no mistake about it. But, their strength is on the defensive end. And when the freezer's not going down, well, you know, then they have to now try to fall back and regain that defensive mentality. Um, and I guess it was to the detriment against Miami. But even then, I mean, there have to be a second plan, a plan B in place. If you're not making threes, adjust. And well, I guess the Celtics did not do a very good job of that. But let's leave that alone for now. The Heat is in the finals with the the Denver Nuggets, and that's that. I just wanted to say. I mean, don't think I'm saying Joe Mazzulla is a bad coach. I'm not saying that. This is his first year, so he may very well develop into a good coach. But of course, I'll keep watching, and just like Monty Williams, there were persons who were singing his praises well before he even started coaching, discussing about how good of a coach he is. And of course, we all know, I mean, it's one thing I keep paying attention to, seeing the performances of those coaches. Now, if the Nuggets, of course, the Nuggets Heat series, I'm expecting the Nuggets to win the series. And of course, I know Miami went into Denver and took one game, tying it up 1-1. But I mean, I never expected Denver to sweep the Heat, you know, despite who is in or out of the lineup. The Heat is well coached. You know, they've got players who have that kind of dog mentality. They don't give up, irrespective of the score, irrespective of the situation. So the moment you sleep on them, they will take a game from you. And so I expect the Heat to at least win probably two games. They already took one, so I think they could take another one. But win the series, uh, I don't think that's very likely. That said, let's get into that best coach conversation. And you know, I'm not in the mood for naming names today. I came back and this is my first podcast, so I'll play a little nice for now. So I will say this: there were a couple of analysts that were discussing the job Spoelstra is doing, with the Miami Heat and bringing them all the way to the NBA Finals. So somewhere in the conversation, one of the contributing analysts told the lead analyst that the lead analyst said that Spoelstra was the best coach in the NBA. The lead analyst pointed out that he did not say that. So then the lead analyst was asked, so who he has as the best coach if it's not Spoelstra, and the response was Tyronn Lue is the best coach in the NBA. So then they posed it at that lead analyst asking him, pointing out that Spoelstra, then he would have Spoelstra in the top two. And of course the lead analyst, you know, he did not necessarily agree with that. And that's one of the primary things that leads to me having this topic. And you've probably heard a few other persons talk about, who the best coach in the NBA is, but I want to get on that one, because persons do that, and you'll see what I mean by that as I go along. They do that way too often. And let me preface by saying that I don't think Tyronn Lue cares whether persons think he's the best coach in the league or not. Well, actually, I don't know if he care or if you don't care, but I will say, well, I'm sure his response, as most of the persons would do, they tell you, I don't care about those things. They just want to win. They just want to do the best job in the league. Okay, so with that, let me say it. Tyronn Lue is not the best coach in the league. Okay, this is something we see way too often with some of those analysts. There are certain players, coaches, executives that are these analysts' friends, and they speak highly of them, even when those coaches, players, executives perform poorly. Okay. Now, while those coaches receive praises, there are other coaches, even when not justified, they are unfairly criticized. Okay. Let me say this again. One simple way of determining the value of a coach or player, whatever, you know, is being examined is to look at whether they're doing more with less. We look at the results. Okay. Are they meeting expectations? Are they exceeding expectations? Are they underperforming? And these things are measurable. I ask, this question. When has Tyronn Lue exceeded expectations? And what has he done specifically that says he's the best coach in the league? And I will answer that question. Nothing. Tyronn Lue took over as the head coach from David Blatt in the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's when he got his first head coaching job. All right. So he was the assistant coach and he inherited the head coach position. Blatt at the time had the best record in the conference at 30-11. I'm sure most of you remember that. But some analysts were still criticizing Blatt, claiming that he was not connecting with the players, that Tyronn Lue, was a person LeBron felt more comfortable speaking with, all of that kind of stuff. So the team went ahead and fired David Blatt and put Tyronn Lue as the head coach. Of course, we know the team went on to win an NBA championship. And Tyronn Lue couldn't escape it, sis. When asked, what did he do to get the team to that point? His reply was, he did not change a thing. What David Blatt was doing was working, so he continued with it. All right? You understand what I'm saying? It's not an invention of Tyronn Lue that brought him to that championship. He just finished up a team that was already in the first place in the conference. He finished off the season, continued what his predecessor was doing, ended up in the championship. Okay? But since then, persons have been calling Tyronn Lue a championship coach. And in all rights, he did win a championship. Since then, you look at him being on his own, and I would say he's not won a championship since. He's not. Okay? So, not only did he finish what David Blatt did, but of course, he inherited a team, a LeBron James team with quality players that, and when LeBron is on that team, on almost any team, and at those times he was in the peak of his career. We know he drove his teams, he carried his teams, to what, 8 straight NBA finals. So, once LeBron is on that team, you expect certain results. But let's leave that alone. Let's fast forward to when LeBron was leaving. The team remained the same, minus LeBron James. That team that went to the NBA Finals, you subtract LeBron James, they started off 0-6. The Cavs had no choice but to fire Tyronn Lue. Okay? Now tell me, where's the greatness in the coaching that persons are referring to? Okay? You would at least hope to see some ingenuity, at least win a couple games or something. Because the entire team is not LeBron James, although, as great as LeBron James is, he still needs some players around him. But you take out LeBron James and you're telling me you cannot win one game. But then he's fired, he moves on to the Clippers. He's assistant under Doc Rivers. We know what happened to Doc. In a similar fashion, he gets promoted to head coach. Now, granted, Kawhi is constantly hurt, and Paul George, gets hurt, or he is usually hurt to some degree as well. So, in that span, I would say nobody has been expecting a championship. Okay? But again, what I asked, when has Tyronn Lue shown that exceptional coaching that resulted in the team going further than expected? Now, I'm not saying he has not had some great coaching moments, But when has he put together, for example, an entire series, you know, that you could say they mm, they exceeded expectations. Let's look at the team he had for the 2023 playoffs. The Clippers was heralded as one of the deepest teams in the league. And of course, before Kawhi, Paul George went down, persons thought, you know, championship was in the making. Or should I say possible? Was possible, excuse me, to, they were one of the favorites to likely come out and win the championship. And as deep as that team with Kawhi and Paul George going down, look at the roster. And we could go over it if persons want, but you will see, based on the complement of players, the team was still pretty formidable. And they get bounced in the first round, albeit to a team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Don't forget, the Suns trade away all their depth for Kevin Durant. And that's one of the situations where you'd see, okay, look at the strategy, look at what adjustments that's made that takes them over the hump. Because when you look at the Clippers team, I'm telling you, you think about that team and you think about what Eric Spoelstra is doing with the Heat, and not just this playoffs. He's done it in the past before, going to the NBA Finals, if you recall, in the bubble. Okay, you look at what he's accomplished. You compare the team without this current Clippers team without Kawhi and Paul George, and compare it to the Miami Heat team. Outside of Jimmy Butler, the Clippers is a significantly better team with a lot more depth. Okay, and that's what I will tell you, because you look at, they had to knock off the Bucks. Then they played the Knicks. They turned the Knicks' own strategy on them. They played the Celtics. They flipped the script on them. And look at they're playing Denver. And you could say, okay, you're seeing some masterful coaching by Eric Spoelstra. But yet, this analyst believes Tyronn Lue is the best coach. And, you know, don't argue with him on that one. Okay? I mean, the bias of some of these analysts when they're friends with some of the coaches, players, etc. It's just ridiculous. But let me go a little further here. What has Ty Lue or Tyronn Lue, to pronounce his name properly, done to show that he has eclipsed Greg Popovich as a coach? I understand Greg Popovich is in his senior days, probably soon to be on his way out. But has Tyronn Lue accomplished anything that says he has eclipsed Greg Popovich? Okay, what has he done to show that he is a better coach than Mike Malone, that's coaching the Nuggets right now? Outside of he continued what David Platt did and won a championship. What has he done to show that he's a better coach than Mike Malone or Frank Vogel at that? We know what Frank Vogel did, with the Pacers. We saw how he did pre-Russell Westbrook. You could see where he created number one defenses, top three defenses. What has Tyronn Lue done that says he's ahead of any of those things? Or in fact, what has he done to say he's even in the top three? Definitively as one of the top three best coaches in the league. I will say this. It's a shame on these analysts. Hoopinhoops.com.